Some mornings, your legs aren't as steady as they were yesterday. Getting out of bed requires an extra breath. Your body carries a sluggish, heavy feeling, even though you slept enough. There's no clear pain, no injury occurred, but something is changing, day by day, night by night. People often blame age, but increasing evidence suggests that muscle weakness isn't an inevitable outcome of aging. Rather, it's a sign of a disrupted process, even while you're sleeping. Sleep should be a time of recovery. It's when the body rebuilds what was worn down after a day of activity. But what happens if this very time is hindered by seemingly harmless things? No underlying medical condition needed, no diagnosis, just a few small habits, repeated every night, are enough to weaken the body's ability to self-regenerate. But what's most concerning is that most people don't realize they're sabotaging their muscle recovery process. Every night, every time they close their eyes, they think they're resting, while in reality, their body is being pushed into a state of degeneration, silently, steadily, night after night. That's why, even with adequate nutrition and no illness, strength drains away like sand through your fingers. The good news is, no medication, no gym, and no sacrificing precious sleep is needed. Just correctly identify the culprits silently appearing every night and change them the right way. Next, the entire secret biological chain behind sleep will be revealed, along with 5 habits that are quietly disrupting muscle rebuilding in people over 60. And more than that, each section comes with easy, practical solutions, enough to restore the strength that age seemed to have taken away. People often think muscles are built during exercise, but science shows the opposite. Exercise is just the warm-up. The real muscle building process only begins afterward, during sleep. During sleep, the body enters a completely different state. Heart rate slows, breathing becomes more regular, internal organs quiet down. But this isn't when the body rests. On the contrary, it begins to work silently in its own unique way, clearing cellular damage, activating recovery hormones, and regenerating the small muscle fibers torn during the day. Central to this entire process is a phase called slow wave sleep, SWS. This is the deepest stage of the sleep cycle. When brain activity slows, the body reaches maximum relaxation, and it's also when growth hormone, GH, is released most strongly. GH doesn't just help children grow tall. In adults, and especially in older adults, GH is the core tool for increasing muscle protein synthesis, repairing cartilage tissue, and maintaining lean mass. But there's a problem. As we age, nocturnal GH levels are already significantly reduced, and even a small disruption in sleep can completely interrupt this process. And GH doesn't work alone. It's accompanied by IGF-1, an insulin-like growth factor, which plays a role in activating the muscle-building process, and both depend on the quality of deep sleep. When sleep is disrupted, GH isn't released at the right time, IGF-1 isn't mobilized, and the process of rebuilding muscle fibers completely stalls. Even worse, if instead of quiet, deep sleep, the body struggles in a stimulated state due to light, noise, stress, or blood sugar imbalances, then cortisol will be activated. This is the most powerful muscle-breaking hormone, opposing GH and IGF-1. And when cortisol dominates, the body doesn't build muscle, it breaks down muscle for energy. So, sleep isn't simply rest, but a silent race between building and breaking down, between GH and cortisol, between anabolism and catabolism. Who wins depends entirely on the conditions we create before sleep. That's why just a few wrong habits before bedtime can skew this hormonal balance, pushing the body out of a recovery state and into a degenerative state. From here, a simple question arises. Are there habits quietly tipping the scales in favor of cortisol and causing muscles to weaken while supposedly resting? The answer is in the next section. The 5 most common habits, proven to hinder recovery hormones and disrupt deep sleep, will be broken down one by one. But it won't just stop at warnings. Each section will also provide specific, easy-to-do solutions right at home, so you can proactively make changes in the gentlest and most sustainable way. And the first link is the timing of your last meal of the day. Have you ever thought that a small evening meal, a slice of cake, a banana, or a few snacks could gradually weaken your muscles? It might sound exaggerated, But science is clearly saying the opposite of that feeling of safety. Dinner is always seen as a relaxing time where families gather and share after a long day. For many, it's also a time to treat themselves. A small pastry after dinner, a sweet tea, a few snacks while watching TV, or some fruit to end the day. But what few people realize is that late meal, however sentimental and familiar, is the first link that disrupts the entire muscle regeneration cycle during the night. To understand why, we need to revisit a very sophisticated bodily mechanism. Each time you eat, insulin is secreted to process the sugar and energy from food. This is a completely normal reaction. But if the meal occurs too close to bedtime, especially if it's rich in carbohydrates or sugar, insulin will remain high throughout the night, and that's when the problem begins. Insulin and growth hormone, GH, don't like each other. They cannot work effectively together in the same environment. GH, the primary hormone for recovering and rebuilding muscle fibers, needs to be released strongly in the early part of the night as the body enters the deep sleep phase. But when insulin is still on duty after a late dinner, GH will be inhibited. And without GH, muscle protein synthesis stops. The entire muscle recovery mechanism during the night virtually freezes. If you're not familiar with this concept, you might ask, what's wrong with insulin? It still helps regulate blood sugar, right? True, but not at 10 p.m. when the body is preparing to enter its recovery phase. A study published on PMC clearly documented this. After just 3 nights of late eating, GH secretion during sleep decreased by up to 80% compared to the early eating group. More remarkably, these were healthy adults. For people over 60 who already have naturally lower GH levels due to age, such a further reduction is almost equivalent to closing the door on muscle fiber repair every night. Think back to your recent evenings. Was there a time you ate a bit late? Did you ever have a sweet fruit serving and then go straight to bed afterward? Or did you ever stay up late watching TV, telling yourself just a few snacks to satisfy a craving? These habits don't cause immediate consequences, but if repeated consistently, night after night, the consequences are real, and you'll notice it the next morning. Slower to get up, heavier legs, more tired climbing stairs, even if you didn't do anything else differently. The older you get, the more your body needs every night to be a perfect repair session, and every disrupted night is a lost opportunity. The problem isn't the food itself, it's the timing. A properly timed evening meal, light, rich in slow-digesting protein at least 2 hours before bedtime, can absolutely support the recovery process. But if it's fast-digesting carbohydrates or sugar, a surge in insulin will keep GH suppressed all night, and that means muscles aren't repaired, small muscle fibers gradually weaken, and muscle mass decreases without immediate visible signs. Unfortunately, this habit is very common in older adults. Due to eating less during the day, medication affecting appetite, or simply a disrupted routine. The older you get, the easier it is to feel hungry in the evening. And if you indulge that hunger with the wrong food, too much sugar, too close to bedtime, biologically, that's an invitation not for recovery, but for cortisol, our muscle destroyer. There's a way to sleep well without being hungry. Instead of choosing sweet foods or fast carbohydrates, have a serving of slow-absorbing protein, like about 200 grams of cottage cheese or a slice of lean turkey. These foods help your body feel lightly full, don't raise insulin, and provide the right ingredients at the right time for muscle protein synthesis when you enter deep sleep. Sometimes, just shifting your dinner time earlier or adjusting a late-night snack can make a huge difference. Not because of the calorie count, but because of the synchronized return of the hormones that orchestrate your body's repair. If you wake up feeling a bit weaker each morning, even if you haven't exercised less or eaten less, look back at your most recent dinner. Perhaps the answer lies in that small moment when your stomach was still busy and growth hormone was put on hold. In the next part, another seemingly harmless habit, as simple as looking at your phone or TV before bed, continues to disrupt the muscle recovery cycle in a very subtle way, and not everyone knows that light can also weaken your legs. It might be hard to believe, but sometimes what causes your legs to weaken day by day doesn't come from your diet, but from something that lights up before your eyes every night, your phone screen. Habit number 2. looking at LED TV screens within 1 hour before bedtime. Try to imagine a normal evening after a light meal, your body starts to slow down, eyelids feel a bit heavy, and sleep seems to be waiting. But instead of falling asleep at that moment, your hand reaches for the remote. Or worse, you open your phone. Just a quick scroll. That familiar phrase appears, and just like that, light from the screen enters your eyes. But what your eyes can't perceive is that light, especially the blue light spectrum around 460 nanometers from LEDs and digital screens, is sending a strong signal to your brain. It's still daytime. Don't sleep. The human body operates on a sophisticated biological clock called the circadian rhythm, and melatonin, the hormone that helps initiate sleep, is the central signal to start that cycle. When it gets dark, melatonin is released, and the brain receives the command to prepare for sleep. But when exposed to blue light in the evening, melatonin is suppressed, and the biological clock is pushed back. For young people, the body might still be strong enough to adjust temporarily, but for those aged 60 and older, where melatonin is already reduced with age, just 30 minutes of screen time at night is enough to disrupt the entire sleep cycle. And when melatonin is low, that person might still sleep, but they won't enter the deep stage, where growth hormone is released, where muscle fibers are regenerated, where the immune system is strengthened. Have you ever experienced sleeping 7-8 hours, but waking up still feeling tired, groggy, and your legs as if they don't belong to you? That feeling is very likely a sign that deep sleep has been stolen from the moment you picked up your phone. A study on older adults showed that just 1 hour of exposure to blue light equivalent to a TV screen before bed significantly reduced total slow-wave sleep, SWS. Instead, there were more shallow, dreaming stages, making it easier to wake up. And when there's no SWS, muscle recovery virtually doesn't happen. But the problem lies in the fact that very few people realize this, because there's no warning, no sound signaling that melatonin is decreasing, GH isn't being secreted, and the body is missing an opportunity for recovery. Some people might think, I still sleep normally, I still close my eyes, I still dream. But dreaming doesn't mean deep sleep, and not all sleep is created equal. Deep sleep is a special kind. It needs to be protected, facilitated, and cannot be regained once it's been shortened. Fortunately, you don't have to completely quit your phone or TV, just change the timing of your use. Instead of looking at screens right up until bedtime, turn off all electronic devices about 60 minutes before lying down. During that time, warm yellow light from a bedside lamp below 3000 Kelvin will help melatonin return. If possible, replace it with another habit, reading a physical book, listening to calming music, or doing some gentle stretches. These activities are not only safe for deep sleep, but also a way to help your body gently transition from an awake state to a recovery state, just as its biology is programmed. And there's a small tip that many studies support. Exposure to blue light in the morning, like walking in the sun, sitting near a window, will help stabilize your biological clock, making your body naturally feel sleepy in the evening. This means getting early morning sun to sleep better that night. It might sound unrelated, but it's actually a tight biological loop. Finally, if every morning you wake up feeling heavy, try to recall the night before. Was there any light in the room? Was the TV left on while you slept? Was your phone screen the last thing you saw before closing your eyes? Because perhaps it's not your body that's tired, but your sleep that hasn't reached the depth your body needs to recover. And if blue light is the second hindrance to that process, the third habit is even invisible to the eye, but it can cause muscle stiffness, wake you up in the middle of the night, and leave your muscles sore all day long afterward. That is not drinking enough water throughout the day. When it comes to muscle recovery, people often think of protein, deep sleep, or proper exercise. But there's another factor, almost never mentioned, that has a profoundly subtle impact: water. Skeletal muscle isn't dry. On the contrary, it contains over 70% water. Every muscle fiber that works, contracts, extends, repairs, or rebuilds needs a sufficiently hydrated environment for reactions to occur smoothly. But unfortunately, even mild dehydration, meaning losing just 1 to 2% of body weight in fluid, is enough to make muscle fibers stiff, difficult to recover, and more sensitive to microinflammation. Have you ever experienced your legs feeling stiffer than usual when you wake up? Or felt your back and shoulders stuck a bit when you just got out of bed? You might not have over-exercised the day before, but your muscles react as if they just had a strenuous workout. This condition is not uncommon, and in many cases, the culprit isn't lack of exercise, it's lack of water. The bodies of older adults have a physiological characteristic that is easily overlooked. The sensation of thirst gradually decreases with age. This means that even if your body is losing water, you might not feel thirsty, and when you don't feel thirsty, you won't drink enough. That cycle occurs throughout the day, silently accumulating. By evening, the body enters sleep in a state of mild dehydration, and the consequences unfold in silence. In a simulated study on muscle fibers, scientists found that dehydration makes muscle fibers react more strongly to electrical stimulation, they contract more easily, and at the same time, reduce the rate of lactate clearance, a byproduct of muscle metabolism. This means muscles are not only prone to stiffness but also stay sore longer after minor impacts or unusual movements. In older adults, this becomes more pronounced, because not only do they dehydrate faster, but the mechanisms for regulating electrolytes and blood pressure also slow down. The result? Nighttime cramps, slight twitches in the calves in the middle of the night, or worse, a severe spasm that forces you to wake up, massage, and then struggle to fall back asleep. And what makes it even more serious is cramps and nighttime dehydration not only cause you pain, but also disrupt deep sleep. And as mentioned from the beginning, SWS is where muscles are built. If deep sleep segments are lost due to waking up, recovery hormones are interrupted, and muscles have no chance to repair themselves. So dehydration isn't just a feeling, it's a link that breaks the body's regeneration cycle. And that doesn't start in the middle of the night, it starts in the morning and accumulates all day long. You might be wondering, so how much is enough? In reality, there's no fixed number, but experts recommend 1.52 liters per day for adults, divided evenly from morning to evening. Don't wait until you're thirsty to drink, and definitely don't wait until evening to try and catch up, because that will only make you wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, further disrupting deep sleep. If you feel you can't drink a lot of plain water, start slowly. A small glass after waking up, a glass mid-morning, a glass before lunch, a glass in the early afternoon. It's that simple, but the cumulative effect is real. Additionally, water from vegetables and watery fruits, like cucumbers, watermelon, oranges, cauliflower, also contribute significantly. And after dinner, keep your water intake moderate, a few small sips to moisten your throat, but not enough to fill your bladder. Many older adults choose to limit water intake from the beginning of the day to avoid going to the toilet too much. But that's like draining water from a factory and still expecting the production line to run smoothly. Without fluid, all processes from tissue repair, nutrient transport to detoxification stagnate. So if you're looking for ways to help your body recover better after every sleep, ask yourself a simple question in the afternoon. Have I drunk enough water? Because perhaps what's causing your muscle fatigue, dull aches, and difficulty with deep sleep isn't an illness. It's just a glass of water forgotten since early morning. And if dehydration is a physical cause, there's a more subtle culprit, unseen by the eye, unfelt by a dry mouth, yet it directly impacts hormones, breaks down muscle, and prevents the body from truly resting. And that is the fourth offender, stress, quietly driving nighttime cortisol activity in the shadows. There's a type of fatigue that doesn't come from physical exertion. It's not from walking a lot, not from eating too little, nor from restless sleep due to waking up in the middle of the night. It's the feeling of being tired because your mind won't stop, because something lingers in your heart, unresolved, and then follows you into sleep. Have you ever experienced that feeling, lying in bed, lights out, but your mind is still holding a meeting, recalling a phone call you haven't made, a prescription you haven't picked up, the worried look in your children's or grandchildren's eyes the day before, or simply an unnamed anxiety about tomorrow? It seems harmless, but those prolonged lines of thought, if not released, could be what's gradually destroying your muscle recovery ability every night. Because while you lie still, eyes closed, cortisol, the stress hormone, is still quietly at work. And when cortisol levels are high at night, the entire recovery cycle your body has prepared will be hindered. Cortisol isn't entirely bad. It helps us stay alert and react quickly to danger. But it should only be high in the morning. At night, especially during deep sleep, cortisol needs to settle down to make way for recovery hormones like GH and IGF-1. When stress isn't released before sleep, cortisol doesn't decrease. Instead, it continues to keep the body in a state of alert. The result? The brain doesn't enter deep sleep at the right time. Melatonin isn't fully secreted, GH isn't released, and the process of muscle protein synthesis, which only occurs most vigorously during deep sleep, is almost completely halted. Even worse, cortisol also activates a direct muscle fiber breakdown mechanism called the ubiquitin proteasome pathway, where proteins in the muscle are tagged for breakdown into energy. This means that when you sleep in a state of high stress, your body not only doesn't build, but also breaks down muscle to burn as a reserve fuel source. A research overview published on PMC shows that an imbalance between high cortisol and low GH is closely linked to decreased muscle mass, reduced strength, and an accelerated progression of sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, have you recently woken up feeling prolonged sluggishness? Your body isn't in obvious pain, but lacks vitality? Has walking fast, climbing a few stairs, or standing for more than a few minutes become more difficult? If so, it's very likely that what you need to change isn't your diet or exercise, but how you end your day. Not everyone falls asleep immediately after turning off the lights, but one thing is clear. The body cannot repair itself when the mind is still operating as if it's daytime. For muscles to recover, the mind needs to relax. For GH to be released, cortisol needs to decrease, and that doesn't come from medication. It comes from small actions, like gently drawing the curtain to close the stage of the day. Instead of coiling up with anxiety, try writing down what worries you before bed. A short line in a small notebook is enough. Instead of forcing yourself to forget, listen to instrumental music. An hour of not solving anything but allowing yourself to relax can be the greatest gift you give your body every night. Another simple method is to take deep, slow, steady breaths for 5 minutes. This breathing technique has been shown to help activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for calming, slowing down, and bringing the body to a state of rest. And because of this, cortisol begins to recede. Because sometimes what you need isn't to finish everything before bed, but to accept letting them go for a while so you can wake up stronger tomorrow. Your body needs a night of deep sleep. Your muscles need GH, they need hormonal tranquility to repair the small damages of yesterday. And you deserve that, even if you're older, even if pressures haven't disappeared, even if there's still much to worry about tomorrow. Because recovery is what your body was designed to do, as long as you provide it with the right environment. And after shedding the burden of stress hormones, there's still one last factor that can hinder the recovery process. Not in your mind, not from your stomach, but from the very room you sleep in every night. The small light from a nightlight, the sound of cars outside, fluctuating temperatures, sometimes cold, sometimes hot, all seem like minor annoyances, but they can actually make deep sleep disappear without you even knowing. Number 5, an unphysiological sleep environment. Light, sound, temperature. These 3 seemingly simple factors have an extremely significant impact on the quality of deep sleep, the only place where true muscle recovery occurs. Many older adults are used to leaving a nightlight on all night, a dim, small light, presumably just for peace of mind, or to make it easier to go to the bathroom. But research has shown that just 8 lux of light, equivalent to a small nightlight, is enough for the brain to maintain a state of alertness, not completely turning off as needed. And when the brain is still alert, melatonin will be inhibited, GH won't be fully released, and slow waves, the foundation of recovery, cannot function effectively. Have you ever felt like you slept straight through but still felt half awake, groggy, and your legs not quite your own? That feeling, could very well be the effect of light. The body sleeps, but the brain doesn't fully enter a deep resting state. And when this repeats, night after night, recovery hormones are gradually disrupted. And what about sound? Many people say they are used to the sound of cars, sleep with the fan on, or sleep with the TV on low. But in reality, the human brain doesn't completely shut down during sleep. It still hears and still reacts. Intermittent noises, even those softer than 40 decibels, can pull the brain out of slow wave state, pushing it to a slightly awake level, enough to hinder the cellular repair process. The remarkable thing is, many people don't fully wake up, so they don't know they're being disrupted. They think they slept all night, but in reality, their deep sleep cycle is fragmented into small segments, and their muscles don't have enough time to enter the deepest recovery mode. Room temperature is also an overlooked factor. When it's too hot or too cold, the body has to use extra energy to regulate its temperature, and this reduces blood flow to muscle tissue, prolongs the time it takes to reach deep sleep, and can even increase cortisol, the hormone that needs to be quiet at night. The body of an older person is even more sensitive to temperature fluctuations. A study published on Springer Link showed that the ideal temperature for entering deep sleep is around 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, 64.4 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Higher and sleep becomes shallower. Lower and the body can't stay warm easily, also causing slow wave disruption. And there's one more factor, not biological but sensory: clutter in the bedroom. Piled up items, blinking lights from alarm clocks, or tangled charging cords by the bedside, though not directly harmful, send a vague message to the brain. Such a room doesn't say, "This is a place to rest." It says, "Work's not done, stay awake." So, for the body to enter a complete state of recovery, it needs a space that aligns with its biology, not just comfortable, but also true to how the nervous system is designed to shut down. That room doesn't need to be beautiful, but it needs to be dark, quiet, cool, tidy, because such a space not only helps you sleep deeper, but also allows growth hormone, melatonin, and repair enzymes to function fully. Try to imagine, you enter a bedroom in the evening, no glaring lights, no sudden sounds, a cool temperature, clean pillows and blankets, and everything neatly put away. Even without knowing any research, you yourself would feel it's easier to fall asleep, right? The body reacts exactly the same way. It doesn't need much explanation, it just needs a suitable environment, and when it gets that, it will do the rest: repair muscles, regenerate energy, and prepare for a new day with steadier legs. And so, these 5 seemingly simple habits: eating late, screen time, insufficient hydration, bedtime stress, and an unphysiological sleep environment, form a silent but very real cycle that causes muscles to weaken each night. Fortunately, each link in that chain can be changed. No medication needed, no expensive equipment, just understanding correctly and starting to adjust each small thing. Nothing needs to change drastically. No need to be perfect immediately. But if tonight you eat an hour earlier, turn off your phone 30 minutes earlier, drink an extra glass of water in the afternoon, spend a few minutes breathing slowly, or simply draw the curtains fully to make the room darker, your body will receive the signal, and your upcoming sleep could become the first night of healing. The wonderful thing is, you don't need to remember the entire biological mechanism, no need to recall hormone names or understand sleep wave rhythms, because your body, which has known how to recover since you were young, is just waiting for those barriers to be removed. If you see yourself in what was just shared, start very gently. Tonight, just turn off your screen 30 minutes earlier, or drink an extra glass of water in the afternoon, or just sit quietly for a few minutes before bed, relax your shoulders, release the tension in your forehead, and let all the noise outside drift away. And if you can, share your feelings in the comments below. What's making it hard for you to get deep sleep? What will you try to change starting today? Who knows, your story might empower someone else who is also struggling in the night, just like you once were. Because recovery, it's never too late. Just start tonight with a small change, wishing you a very peaceful sleep and a tomorrow morning with steadier legs than yesterday.